what has made you come up with the concept of creating the Mocksy Bar?
Obviously, growing up as a second generation Indian American, there's a lot of balancing of culture.
For me, it was more so that I was in the military before, and I've seen like the impact of like alcohol on my fellow peers, whether that was just like bad decision making or just affecting their health. Welcome back to another episode of Blissful Beings. I am your host, Janine Cassio, and today we have women entrepreneurs, my favorite. Do you guys want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. I'm Meera Patel.
I'm Sapna.
And how have you guys, like, what has made you come up with the concept of creating the Mocksy Bar?
So what I love about our story is that we kind of have our own separate versions of what brought us to the Mocksy Bar, and then of course our story together. But so for me, obviously growing up as a second generation Indian American, there's a lot of balancing of cultures, right, that happens. And so I grew up, with very strict religious values for abstaining from alcohol, things like that. So it was always kind of ingrained in me from a young age. And then, of course, you go off to college and you're like exposed to all kinds of different things. But I kept true to that value. And I think during my college experience, I was in a sorority. I got to see kind of two sides, right? There is the side where it's everybody's drinking together and it's inclusive and it's fun and it's a party. But then you also see kind of the negative sides of alcohol, right? And so me getting to be sober sister, I got to see kind of that side of it a lot. And I think that helped reinforce this really tough decision to be in this environment and to not drink. So, obviously moving into your adult life and you just start feeling this sense of, okay, well, nobody ever really considers that people may want to be social but not drink alcohol. And so you feel like left out almost. Like even when you go to a wedding and there's a toast, you don't get to have anything else with, right? Happy hours. It's all kinds of different things. And you're just like, well, why is my decision to do something healthy like not valued or like not respected? And so that kind of led me to this, to the world of mocktails. Obviously, I wanted to be, included. And so when this zero proof beverage world started to really take off, that got a lot easier.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of really had this idea in the back of my mind.
So for me, it was more so that I was in the military before, and I've seen like the impact of like alcohol on my fellow peers, whether that was just like bad decision making or just affecting their health. And so for me, I think it made a choice for me to be like, you know what, I really don't want to have like alcohol, and I don't need alcohol to have fun or socialize. So segueing from that, funny story, a lot of people think that me and Meera are sisters or related.
I would even ask the occasion. So
we're not. We met through our husbands, who are like their best friends, and we bonded immediately, and we bonded over mocktails. And it was whether we would meet up at restaurants and drink mocktails, or if it was just like us hosting, we'd be making mocktails for our friends, or like we'd be together just trying different flavors and creating flavors at home. So keeping that in mind, I last year bought a planner, and I buy a planner every year. I'm a huge planner girl. I love planners. But my planner has like 30-day challenges or just like self-growth. And so last year in February, one of the things was starting a new business venture. And so I was like, okay, like this is definitely a sign.
Yeah.
And there's a passion for mocktails as well, right? So then I was thinking about Meera. Before even going into that, I'm thinking about like, who's the best partner that I could even have, right? That's a partner that's really driven, creative, and has very similar values to what I have. And so there you go. Like it's Meera, like 100%. We connected over mocktails. We both have the passion for it. We both love it. And there's no better person for it than her.
Yeah.
And I was sorry to interrupt. It really just was like, she called me, I answer, and she says, hey, Meera, what are we doing? Like, what do you mean, what are we doing? Like this weekend, like professionally, years? Like she just said, what are we doing? And then she was like, we should make this thing a business. And I was like, oh my gosh, I already have the name. Like, Personalized, like tonight, it was like, what would help me fall asleep? And I was like, I have the name. Like, let's figure out how we're going to start a business, because obviously we're both employees we had full-time careers. Now we have never been on the other side of things. So, who better to learn how to do something with than your best friend.
Love that. And honestly, the mocktails and like the eye catching of it is amazing. So I just want to let you guys know you're killing it.
Thank you.
As women entrepreneurs, have you had any major challenges that you've had to like overcome? Like for any other woman that want to maybe branch off, start a business, like what is something that you could like give them for a piece of advice?
You want to talk about balance? I think that's been something that we both had to work through together.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's honestly just being able to balance and juggle between just our careers, our personal lives, and even just like growing the business itself, right? So how do I even put this, Meera? I don't know. And it's the whole concept of just being able to balance. I have to sit there and I have to time block, just set some time apart for the Mocksy Bar, and make it like a non-negotiable for myself. Leaning into that, like it's just basically like making sure that I'm able to put that priority into the business. And I don't know. I think that's like the biggest thing, just being able to balance all of that out.
Yeah, as girls, maybe as females, we carry a lot of imposter syndrome. And so I think that you have to really just bottle it up, put it aside, and say, if anybody can do this, I can do this. Like there is nothing that a man could do differently than what we can do. And so it's just learning to really cultivate your self-value and reminding yourself that what you're doing is important, something that's needed. And I think that fuels us.
Yeah, absolutely. And she mentioned time blocking. So to kind of like go off of that, is there any other tips and tricks that you utilize? Like, do you do any meditation or any mindfulness practices? Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the biggest things for me. So like I wake up in the morning, and before I jump into like business mode or like work mode or whatever it may be, I'm usually journaling. That's been really helpful for me. I've been able to like help get all my thoughts and ideas and like whatever my mindset is for that day. Also started the practice of doing yoga in the morning or meditating in the morning. And very new, by the way, but it's been so great for me, like personally. And then I'm able to just reset and like jump into such a great mindset and into that business mode. Yeah, that's awesome. I've heard this one quote on entrepreneurship, and it's just resonated so hard with me that an entrepreneur, the only difference is that you could take on more pressure. So it's not like it gets easier. It's just like you find these things that work for you that you could balance, navigate life, and just be able to take more on, right? You know?
I think that's the value of having a partner as well. Because they really able to tease us. Nice. Here's what I'm really good at. Here's what you're really good at. And so let's help each other out. You pick up the slack where I can't handle it anymore. So it's really nice to have somebody doing.
And there's times where I feel like there's going to be one person's just doing a lot more than the other because of like timing situation, right? Like sometimes there's other priorities that you have to take in, like, or you're putting in front. And so like there'll be times where I'm like, I cannot handle this right now, but I will get back to it later, but you're going to have to take this load right here. And there'll be moments where like, hey, I can't handle this right now. And just communicating that as well. Really, so key. Yeah. And we've like, that's our biggest thing. If there's anything, always we just communicate, like over communicate more than under communicate, right? So
I think that on the last few months of the journey too, we've been really good at systems. So we know exactly from the time that's nice, that is, hey, I'm interested, how we're going to feed that through from the consultation through to the actual planning of the project itself. Coming up with the mock-up of how the display is going to look, recipe development, all of that stuff has sort of become more systematic. So now we're not wasting so many brain cells trying to figure out where we are. I mean, the pipeline is there now. So,
well, you two definitely are two entrepreneurs, and I admire that a lot. Do you want to maybe walk us through your products, and if anyone's interested in the Mocksy Bar and hiring you guys, kind of what that looks like?
Yeah, totally, Meera. So what makes us very different from a lot of other players that are in the industry is that we are not interactive bartenders per se. But we create these drink displays, which is you mentioning, like it creates a visual treat where we eat with our eyes first.
Yeah.
So,
And you had one of the smoke guns or something. The flavors.
I love that.
Yes. And so basically what we have is we have our 3 different packages, which is the Mocksy Sip, the Mocksy Sparkle, and the Mocksy Savor. And they're just kind of tailor-made towards different levels of customization. So our Mocksy Sip is very much just for, people who are like, I've never tried something non-alcoholic before, what it has to offer. We make really great mojitos, teas, lemonades, those sorts of things. And then all the way up to our Mocksy Savor package, that's great for the milestone occasions, their wedding receptions, 40th birthdays. We're doing all kinds of customization of things we can do. Edible drink toppers. We can have like drink stirrers with your like company name or your name.
It's just a lot of fun. Like we can get as customized as you want us to get, right? Like drink colors, everything that we use again is all natural. Anything that we wouldn't want to put in our bodies, we're not going to put in your body, right? Like we're all about natural ingredients. So we're going to get that color. Like if you want a blue color, we're going to figure out how to get that color naturally. Like no artificial dyes or preservatives.
That's amazing. Well, I'm very excited to maybe book you guys from our next event because I love customizable drinks and I'm doing dry January, which I want to continue.
Yeah.
And I'm going to see how long I could go for. And like you said, like just being able to have fun, because a lot of times when you're in a community, you just want to have a drink or meet up with a friend. And it's like, I'm not drinking because I like it. I'm drinking because I want to be social.
Yeah.
So you guys are bringing that to society and I love it. So I'm behind it 100%. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so we're on Instagram at the Mocksy Bar. Yes. And we have a beautiful website that's actually created, themocksybar.com. So
very cool. Thank you so much for being on this episode. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Blissful Beings. Make sure to follow the Mocksy Bar on Instagram. Cheers.
Cheers.